Oh, finally, we have some background music going on. Good evening, everyone, and good day, everyone else in the world. My name is Jing. I am the host of Season 2 of Untold Legends, and we are accompanied by our resident co host, JoeDini.
Hello, everybody. Good morning over here in the States.
Yes, I was testing a lot of things a while ago, including the background music, because there's nothing you can do about the background noise, the air conditioning, the dogs, whatever unpredictable thing that might happen here in the long run. There's nothing I can do about that, but I can do something about the background music at least. So now we have background music to use while we are live streaming our latest episode. And it's one of those episodes, I don't expect this to be long, but let's see what can be done. Simply because there's not much information about our episode subject. Her name is Isabella Guzman, and she went viral on TikTok back in September 2020. It's like in the middle of the pandemic, and the last thing you ever wanted to trend on social media is um, someone who was accused of murdering her mother. Sorry to spoil that, but we have to simply go into the details of what really happened because chances are, if you came across this episode, you may not know her or you may have heard about her. My subscribers here in the Philippines may have heard about her because some, even local YouTubers, are discussing her because everyone's asking, why is this woman trending on TikTok? And why did she? Not sure if she trended on Twitter. I don't have TikTok. Sorry to disappoint you, boys and girls, and audience in general. I don't have TikTok. I don't plan on having one. I have issues. I have trust issues when it comes to social media, which is weird because now I have a YouTube channel, but I don't have TikTok because I I don't think I'm willing to let other people use my face without my permission. So yeah, so just to get that out of the way. And here we have some of the notes. I have some notes here from the oldest article about Isabella Guzman to one of the updated ones, plus the diagnosis by Dr. Todd Grant and the interview that she granted a news channel that other people were using for the sake of mental health awareness. Okay, so here, the first thing that would give us an idea about what really happened, or at least an excerpt. This is the article that was posted on Huffington Post. You may have heard of that website. And it was a news item about Isabel Guzman wherein Isabel Guzman, at the time that the crime happened, she just turned 18 years old. So, yeah, can't be treated as a juvie anymore. And the title reads Isabel Guzman Aurora, 18-year-old, allegedly stabbed mother 79 times. So, this was published back in September 6th of 2013. Let me just minimize the sounds. Try to pause it for a while. And to read the article here, an 18-year-old in Colorado, that's Aurora, Colorado, is facing first-degree murder charges after allegedly stabbing her mother in the face and neck 79 times. The teen's stepfather, Ryan Hoy, called Aurora police to the home on the night of August 28 when he saw blood pooling under the door of the upstairs bathroom. And according to the arrest affidavit, Hoy told dispatch that police had already been called to the house earlier that day because his stepdaughter, Isabella Guzman, had allegedly threatened her mother, Yun Mi Hoy, in an email telling her, to quote, you will pay, end quote. Guzman's biological father, Robert Guzman, also claimed that he had a talk with Isabella before the 911 call. And to quote Robert Guzman, I went to talk to Isabella and we sat down in the backyard looking at the trees and the animals and I started to talk to her about the respect that people should have for their parents. End quote. And of course he added further, and I quote, and I was trying to let her know that she should be obedient to her parents, not rebellious, that she should try to listen more, and everything was going fine. In the conversation, I thought that I made progress, but obviously it didn't do nothing because hours later this thing happened. End quote. While on the phone with dispatch, Hoy said that at first he was unable to open the door because Guzman wouldn't let him enter, and he heard Yumi Hoy say, Jehovah, before the bathroom door opened. And to quote the affidavit here, Hoy then observed Isabella Guzman standing in the doorway holding a knife. Hoy advised that he never heard Guzman say anything and that she didn't speak to him as she exited the bathroom, was staring straight ahead when she walked past him. End quote. So, in effect, it was summarized in this article that it's possibly one of those not underreported crime news at that time, and other websites then reported like this summary from allindiaroundup.com about how the murder occurred, because it was initially reported that Yun Mihoy, the mother, uh, obtained 79 stab wounds. By the time the autopsy was conducted, it turned out that it was 151 stab wounds, and Isabella also beat her mother on the head with a baseball bat. That latter description was the more often repeated uh, cause of death in other reports that was mentioned here on YouTube, and it's really unfortunate. So you then understand why you then understand why there are a lot of people that are bothered that why is she trending, and why is she trending is because somebody uploaded, not sure if upload is the right term to use, I'm not familiar with TikTok if they have the same features as other social media, because normally social in TikTok I'm familiar with how there's a video, then they would just attach music in the background, and that's what happened. Somebody obtained a clip of Isabella Guzman um, in court, uh, trying to elicit sympathy. Uh, that's how it was described. And then um it became viral because of the way she behaved in court. It's the kind that gets you thinking, is this how someone on trial for the murder of her own mother is supposed to be behaving? And you then realize that, whenever someone is using insanity as a plea, it makes you doubt that this testimony. Like, it's you're familiar with cases that um, end up having a conviction supposedly, but because the person pleaded not guilty due to insanity, it makes you question what kind of get out of jail card are these people used to avoid accountability, so to speak. It's really sad.
And very common.
Yeah, very common too. Not as common here in the Philippines, although I'm familiar with certain cases where they are trying to. Let me put on the background music again. Let's see. Because not many people takes that thing seriously simply because Are you using just as an excuse to get away from a jail term? Because every country has a different system when it comes to mental health facilities, and then you get some idea as to what could possibly happen here or what could be the consequences that come with this case, because we're talking about a young woman. I can't call her a young girl anymore. She had just turned 18. I can't call her a young woman because she turned 18. Now, if she's using that as a get out of jail card, she's using her mental health to get out of jail card, then the next thing that the prosecutors, or at least people on trial, have to prove is the existence of mental health disorder. I'm trying to get the clip here, or the part where she's doing things on in court here. I'll be switching this to make sure that we get the part. I'll be sharing the part where my screen share is not so working here. Here. This is one of the clips that was obtained by a local YouTuber named uh, Kaalaman, which means knowledge. I put it on mute for the meantime so we can just focus on the clip, on the facial expressions that she gave while on trial. So here. Okay, she is. She's talking to her lawyer. And then she faces the camera. So you see the face that she made, right?
Yeah, it's like, nah.
Nah. Right. Let's repeat that. Yeah. Not sure if that's the same clip that was used later on to justify the mental health. Here we go. Here's the part where she's supposed to look sad, but just look what she would do here.
Oh, hi. Staring into the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong
See?
finger. Wrong finger.
Yes. No, it's like, hey, can you see I'm crying? Can you see
It
I'm trying
doesn't
to
even
cry here? Yeah, it seems
doesn't
like
even
that.
look like it.
Well, I'm looking at her eyes, and it's like is she trying to cry, or she just had swollen eyes, or what? There,
You
those
can't even see it
those
from
are the
that
clips
distance.
that was used in the TikTok. Yeah, that one. Much of the footage was taken from CBS Colorado, which is understandable, frankly. So those are the faces that she made in court. Like, how can people feel bad for you if this is how you conduct yourself in court? Like, on the other hand, those are the clips that were also used on the TikTok clip that really made it look like. Let me just remove that screen share. And those are the clips that were used in the song. The title of the song was "Sweet but Psycho," which is why that explains the thumbnail that I used, because she looks sweet But the moment you realize the gravity of the crime that she committed, it's like, can we just remove the word sweet? Let's just call her something else, psycho, if you want. So let me just put back the music here to at least lighten up the mood. It's not easy to make light of this. I don't think it will ever be lightened up as a topic at all. But it's really odd that some cases had to be, some cases had to gain infamy because it's like that case where if you can't be famous, be infamous from that musical or Chicago. On the other hand, it also gets you thinking. Yeah, Chicago as a musical itself is based on a crime that occurred in the past in the Roaring Twenties, or that time when Chicago still had all the cameras and the booze and the whatnot. Oh, sorry, camera's not supposed to be included there, but yeah, gets you thinking that is this the new source of entertainment for the youth today? Are we all that bored that even someone as insignificant, pardon the term, as Isabella Guzman get this kind of fame? Like I don't know. Maybe I because it reminds me of that time here in the Philippines. I was still young then, but now that I'm conducting research on a lot of stuff, gets me thinking that yeah, there was a time that crime stories are really the trend, and sometimes they just move over to social media, and you have cases like this: Isabella Guzman, someone who murdered her mother and ended up gaining fame years later after the decision was released. And it's the decision, perhaps, that really got some people interested in this case further. So, to continue with the story, I'm using the article from All India Roundup now to continue with where I left off from the Huffington Post article. So, to quote, so we ended at the part where Isabella was running out of the house with a knife, or more like walking, if the stepfather story is to be based. So, here, although although Ryan had already saw his wife bloodied up, he tried to revive her in the best way that he could, but it's already useless. She's already dead, and she died while staring blankly. I still consider it horrifying to imagine people that died with their eyes open. So, according to the article here, Yun Mi Hoy, the mother of Isabella, was lying naked on the bathroom floor, covered in blood, and right next to a baseball bat when the police arrived. So, an autopsy said that she sustained 31 stabs on the face and 48 stab wounds on the neck, and overall, it's a total of 151 stabs were there on her body. So, this reminds me of one of the explanations provided by Candice Long of the documentary anthology series Deadly Women, about murder have that resulted in multiple stab wounds. Sometimes you're just so angry that even if the person is dead, but you're still angry, you still continue on stabbing the person. So that's the only logical explanation I could get, or I could understand perhaps, on why she resulted in this many stab wounds. Makes
It's
you analyze things differently. Yeah, you were saying?
it, it's mind blowing because I never heard that many stab wounds getting put into somebody like that.
Hmm. Yeah. As they say, it's like the first five stab wounds are the killer stabs, and then everything else is just a way to unleash anger. It's like, I hate you so much. Yeah, it's not enough that I stab you 5 times.
There was a wrestler I knew one time who it was in the ring and he stabbed wrestler in the ring because he didn't like the way he was working with him.
Mm.
So he gets arrested and then he's trying to tell her, and the cops are saying they stabbed him 15 times. It's like, no, I didn't stab him 15 times. I stabbed him 9 times. I even counted the tape. It was 9, not 15. And people are like, you still stabbed him though. Does it matter how many times you stabbed him?
Yeah, because most of the time in in criminal procedure, the number of stab wounds become a factor because there's the intent. They're always analyzing the intent, and they're always analyzing how angry a person had to be to do it. Because there are some cases wherein somebody stabbed the person and then realized, oh crap, I stabbed the person. Like other cases like this one, they're so angry. Yeah, they stabbed several times, and then by the time they get interrogated by the cops or they get interrogated on the stand, they were like, "No, I just stabbed this person this number of times." Like, no, it does not. It does not mitigate the punishment. Sorry, or, no, not sorry, because the point is, the intent was there. You wanted to hurt a person or you wanted to kill a person based on where you stabbed the person, so it just makes the crime sound even worse. So that wrestler that you were talking about, it maybe he thought that he would get a lighter sentence simply because there were less number of times that were stabbed, but that criminal profiler I saw, at least she gave a number 5 times. 5 times beyond five, you're just unleashing anger by them. Because that's the scary thing about anger. Sometimes you hate someone so much that it's not enough that you stab them once, and that basically displayed how horrible crime is. It makes you look at Isabella Guzman a lot differently. And it's like she's make face, yeah, she's doing that on the camera. Like, do you even know what you just did? Are you even aware of what just happened? Because that's why they're going for the insanity thing. It's like, no, she doesn't know that what she's doing is wrong. She doesn't know that she doesn't have any discernment. That term discernment often gets thrown around in some of the cases that I've read. Yeah, I'm still ongoing with the review sessions. I may be still in the constantly reviewing, constantly reading about similar cases about people pleading not guilty by reason of insanity, and then they were claiming that. And then I remember someone asking, "Why are they pleading for insanity again?" They were like, they were pleading for insanity because they were expecting a lesser punishment, that or to avoid jail time and get institutionalized instead, which doesn't always work, at least based on how I observed it. Because every country has a different way of a different system. It's like because in the U.S., if you say sanitarium or mental institution, the first thing that comes to mind, at least personally, is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Hmm. That's a book I haven't read in a long time.
Yeah, and that movie was occasionally mentioned as it's like telling it's like telling some convicts like, yeah, you plead not guilty by reason of insanity, but what kind of amenities you end up getting once you get institutionalized instead of serving a jail time?
Still gonna have to. What is it? You're still gonna have to be in a precarious situation where you're stuck inside a institution that's it's almost like a jail in a sense, but they just don't treat
Yeah,
it like it.
they don't treat it like it because they were claiming that, yeah, that person is still receiving medication. They're still under the people's dime, under the taxpayers' dime. Yeah, that's also part of the deal that some people may have noticed. Like, I remember that episode from CSI Miami where a cop almost arrested someone, and then that cop stopped himself from arresting that offender because, hey, wait a minute, these people are committing crime so that they get jail time, they get free meals, and then they get free. It's like getting an accommodation for free. You get fed for free. It's like somebody committed a crime, and you still end up thinking that these people are getting meals for free, like free lunch. So, are you supposed to arrest them or not? Like, are you? It's like a
Hmm.
conflict that was presented. It's just a minor subplot in that episode that I can't help but notice because it's how some the person that he's supposed to be arresting was a homeless man. So it's like so many homeless people, and then some of them were thinking that, yeah, I'd rather go to jail. At least I get fed. There's a roof above my head, and they don't know what the 23 one is. The 23 one that you mentioned a while ago on when you discussed Fire Festival on Legends of the Internet.
Yes, you only get an hour to stretch your legs. The
Mm,
other 23, you're stuck in there for the whole day.
yeah, it's actually the sad thing there, but yeah, some people only realize that by the time they get in jail. So it's really scary. So going back to the article that I have here, because they even covered the first and second court hearings, they mentioned the times when Isabella Guzman was smiling at the camera, and she was like, "Hey, can you see I'm crying?" Like, you know how some people on trial are trying to fake tears just to appear sympathetic to the judge, and sometimes it works. There are
No,
times that no, it doesn't.
because, well, they could either be crying to fake it, or they could be crying
Mm,
because, like, oh, I'm about to go to jail.
mm, that too, and they don't realize the gravity of the situation until they get there. So that was what happened. The excerpts that I showed you a while ago were from the first hearing. Second hearing was canceled because Guzman refused to leave her jail cell, and she has mental issues, of course. And it was described by a psychologist named Todd Grant in his video that they call it the jail. My jail cell is my castle policy. Let me check here the actual quote. It's a one loophole or one policy that some people in jail follow. So it's like, okay, the actual quote that Todd Grant mentioned was, "Your jail cell is your castle policy." It's like according to Todd Grant, this whole time they thought they had to follow the rules in jail. Who would have known they could say, "No, I'm staying in my jail cell," and nobody could do anything about it. Apparently, yeah, end quote. Apparently, Isabella Guzman learned of that and decided that she can do that as well, which is why the second court hearing was canceled because she refused to leave her jail cell. Mm. I find it amusing. No, I'm staying in my jail cell. Nobody could do anything about it. Nah. But the hell? Some people really have issues. Although issues are so bad that it canceled the second hearing. Yeah. Okay. So a little background about oh what happened here. Oh, hello to everyone that came on the live stream. Thank you for thank you, Sweet Buns Lifestyle, for coming by. Although it's quite late now, we're already 30 minutes into this episode. Okay, so here, and this is also discussed by Todd Brand on his YouTube video about how bad was the relationship between mother and daughter. So, court documents, according to the article by allindiaroundup.com, court documents indicated that Guzman had a contentious relationship with her mother, who had been concerned enough with her threatening behavior to call the authorities that day. It was said that on the day of the incident, uh, the mother wanted to kick her out of the house because of her behavior. And end quote. And it seems that she can kick out her daughter then because she already turned 18. So here, 2 months after turning 18, that's when the murder happened. Of course, the other witness was the stepfather. So here, after the autopsy, after the trial, after claiming that she's not guilty due to insanity, quoting the same article, Isabella Guzman did not go to jail after killing her own mother. Her insanity plea was accepted by the court. She also pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity and was sent to state mental hospital for an evaluation. So, in the court hearing, a judge reviewed the results of the mental evaluation and ruled that Guzman is not guilty because of the state of her mental health. So, she was sent to the Colorado Mental Health Institute of Pueblo in Colorado. Of course, not many people, or not a few people, like this decision because, like, is she claiming now that she's innocent simply because, or she's not guilty? She's not innocent, but she's not claiming any accountability either simply because of what she claims to be paranoid schizophrenia. That's the term that was used in court documents, paranoid schizophrenia, which is why I can't blame other people for seeking the advice of Dr. Todd Brand here. Also, he made sure that he had a copy of the the book used by American psychologists. So here are his thoughts, and to quote, "It's unusual for a prosecutor to actually agree with an insanity defense." A mental health professional testified, saying that Isabella had schizophrenia. He said that she suffered from delusions for years and suggested that there were obvious signs of schizophrenia, including she was staring into space, having conversations with people who are not present, and laughing for no reason. Isabella believed her mother was a woman named Cecilia who needed to be killed in order to save the world, and the judge accepted the plea, saying that Isabella did not know the difference between right and wrong. So Isabella will remain in a mental hospital until such time as she is no longer a threat to herself or others. So this could be for a few years or for the rest of her life. End quote. That's how Todd Grand summarized the what happened. And as for his thoughts, well, before he would give his own diagnosis, he would also refer to research that can be used as related literature, and then he would be giving his insights into this. So, quoting Todd Grant from the same clip, this is he also had a copy of the American Psychiatric Association entitled Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, 5th edition, year 2013. And he used the term matricide because even in legal terms, the term uses parricide when it involves murder of a relative, and matricide is when a child kills their mother. So here, according to Todd Grant, and I quote, matricide is rare. There are only about 100 cases a year in the United States. Only 16% of those involve a daughter as the perpetrator, and less than 20% of daughters who commit matricide are under the age of 18. And Isabella had turned 18 about 2 months before the killing. So there's quite a bit of difference in the typical profiles of male and female matricidal offenders. Daughters who kill their mothers are often middle aged, single, and live with their mother. Isabella was far from middle age, but she was single and with her mother. The daughter is often dependent on the mother and the relationship is hostile. Both of these conditions seem present in this case. The use of force is often excessive. And, and of course, he mentioned how 151 stab wounds is excessive. Of course, it's excessive. It's like,
Mhm.
the, is she even aware how many times she stabbed her mother? It's like, she's that angry, she obviously lost track of it. Like, she already had stab wounds. It's like, a lot of these stab wounds, it's all the several times that Isabella's hit her mother in the head with a baseball bat sometimes sounds like an afterthought. But- So here, continuing the with the data that Todd Grant had shared, and I quote, 75% of the time, daughters who kill their mothers suffer from a mental disorder associated with psychosis. For example, schizophrenia, a schizoaffective disorder, major mood disorders like major depressive disorder and bipolar disorder, and something like delusional disorder. When daughters commit parricide, over 80% of the time the mother is the victim. The result is matricide as opposed to parricide or patricide, which is the killing of the father. And many of the characteristics typically observed with matricide are present in this case. So this decision to accept the plea should not be surprising, end quote. And there are a lot of there are a lot of court personnel now that are becoming more and more aware of mental health because there are people that are really claiming that they have this mental disorder that caused them to commit horrible things, including murder. And it's one of those cases that perhaps the main reason why it was underreported was how smooth the procedure turned out to be. Uh, and this is the same observation that Todd Grant had shared, since, according to Todd Grant, and I quote, the defense, the prosecutor, and the judge all agreed that not only did Isabella have schizophrenia, but she was not criminally responsible. And end quote. Because here he has observed a lot of cases in the past where the person put on trial clearly had schizophrenia, at least that's how he claims it to be, and they were still tried, convicted, and sentenced to life in prison. So, again, going back to the same clip, to quote Todd Grant, the intersection of mental health and the law is a dangerous place. Sometimes there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason why one perpetrator is sentenced to prison and another is sent to a mental hospital. In the end, even though it's disconcerting, the process isn't scientific or precise. The result is usually the same. Even when killers are found not criminally responsible, they often spend the rest of their lives in a mental hospital, which, as far as living conditions, is no better than prison. Actually, in many cases, the mental hospital is much worse. End quote. So, That's why I remembered One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's like, yeah, you avoided jail time, but you're stuck in a mental hospital where people have the power to give you, to drug you, to, I will not mince my words on that. Um, Nurse Ratched became the ultimate boogeyman or boogie woman for people trying to enter the mental hospital because mental health sometimes only gets the attention that it deserves whenever cases like this occur. Whenever cases like Isabella Guzman pop up, and even worse, um, it almost trended on Twitter, if not for some people complaining that, why are you simping for Isabella Guzman? Hello, she killed her mother. Yeah, I can imagine them talking like that.
The
Oh my
simping.
god, that's,
I can't,
I,
I can't believe they went that far.
yeah, I know simping is not a good word, but how else can you explain Sweet But Psycho being attributed to her if they were not simping? It's like, mm, are you looking up to the right role models at some point? Like, mm, her looking beautiful and sweet and unassuming, it's not an excuse because sometimes it's a tactic for some notorious criminals to attract sympathy from the public and make it seem like they're less guilty of what is actually attributed to them. Um, I'm not sure if this woman is already featured on the TV series Snap or Deadly Women. Those are the two TV series that I just end up watching them on YouTube or some other um, video streaming site. Um, Although the moment that she trended and the moment that other YouTubers were talking about her, I was like, yeah, I think I have to include her soon in Untold Legends because it's like she slipped under the radar and only trended 7 years after the crime itself. So,
So to answer your question, both of those shows did not do an episode on her yet.
yeah, at least based on how I remember it. If you'd like to go the straight up documentary style, I recommend Snap. If you like crime stories being presented with campy acting, you can go watch Deadly Women.
Can't be acting. I love that terminology. I don't,
Yeah, because sometimes they're presented to be a lot more psycho than they actually are. There's no subliminal acting going on. Like, okay. Yeah, sometimes I'm surprised that either the episodes in Deadly Women are featured by some um, crime-based YouTube channels here, and sometimes it's the episodes that are or the stories that are featured on YouTube. They reach mainstream media because they got featured on Deadly Women or Snap, and sometimes it's in the presentation that becomes different. Although I know you're more familiar with American Greed and other shows that Discovery investigative investigation Discovery rather is a show. It's been a while since I watched them, so not sure if they should be featuring Isabella Guzman on their series, but who knows? Because it's never too late to write down a story. Because here's what happened with her. So I find it amusing too. I have to agree with Todd Grant here that the process turned out so smoothly simply because they read the literature about matricide, about schizophrenia, and whether she had to be given this treatment, so to speak, because she did not get a jail time. We are not. sure what kind of conditions she encountered in Colorado State Hospital. There's been a rumor going on about the kind of treatment that she received from the hospital where she got confined. I'd rather use the word confined than detained, although it seems like that's what happened to her there. So now she gave this interview, and a different channel uploaded this for the sake of bringing awareness to mental health, and we have to see for ourselves. Yeah, this means we're getting an idea how she looks like now, or at least how she looked like from the last time that she got interviewed. This was around last year so far. Simply have to go ahead and check here and open the link and then share it later on. There you go.
Normal life. CBS 4's Rick Sounder has a preview of her story.
She seems so normal.
If I could have chosen a different path now, I would have. But I can't change the past.
What got Isabella Guzman into the state hospital was not normal at all. She killed her mother, stabbing her 79 times.
The fight with my mom was terrible, and I was injured in the process. I have the scars on my hands. I don't know if you can see or not.
Her life inside the state facility has been troubling.
I was afraid that if I didn't do what he wanted, that he could ruin my life.
See the full story and hear Isabella's plea for freedom. That's tonight on CBS 4 News at 10 o'clock.
She stabbed her mother 79 times. Now she wants to be released.
The fight with my mom was terrible. I was injured in the process.
Coming up, Isabella Guzman talks about the abuse that led to the murder and how she's changed.
And why they were chilling images of a woman who murdered her mother. Isabella Guzman smiling for the cameras after stabbing her mom 79 times. Now she says she is ready to return to society.
Guzman was 18 at the time and found not guilty by reason of insanity. Well, now she tells CBS 4's Rick Salinger she's on medication and her sanity has been restored.
I was not myself when I did that, and I have since been restored to full health.
It was
What?
7 years ago Isabella Guzman
Oh.
committed an unspeakable crime. In this Aurora home, she stabbed her mother to death 79 times in the face and neck.
I was abused at home by my family for many years. My parents are Jehovah's Witnesses, and I left the religion when I was 14, and the abuse at home worsened after I quit.
Court documents indicated she had been at extreme odds with her mother, Yun Mi Hoi. She argued with her and wrote, "You will pay."
The fight with my mom was terrible, and I was injured in the process. I have the scars on my hands. I don't know if you can see or not.
For so many who knew her, it was hard to imagine Isabella with such a sweet face could carry out such a vicious act. Found not guilty by reason of insanity, she was sent to the state hospital in Pueblo, where we spoke to her.
I'm not mentally ill anymore. I'm not a danger to myself or others.
Life here, not surprisingly, has been difficult. In 2015, she reported to police she had been sexually assaulted by a hospital employee in a closet.
He asked me if I wanted to go in there and look through to get some clothing, so I did. The other patient left, and he went in there and shut the door behind him.
The case was investigated by the state hospital's police. The Department of Human Services denied our request for information, citing privacy laws. Isabella said there were 2 other incidents with the same employee.
I was afraid that if I didn't do what he wanted, that he could ruin my life.
She is now seeking prosecution of the man she claims assaulted her, but the Pueblo DA says he never got such a case back then from the hospital police.
So hard on me emotionally and mentally. It made me feel like I wanted to give up.
But what Isabella Guzman would like most of all is release from this facility.
If I could change it or if I could take it back, I would.
She is hoping to see freedom one day. Rick Salinger covering Colorado First.
Okay, so that's part of the clip that was shared regarding this case. And
They should be ashamed of themselves for even doing that piece.
yeah, we know it's like I'm checking on the comments here. They're not exactly nice, and nobody's believing her. I can show the comments here again. Okay. Don't mind my add-ons, my extensions on the side. Like okay. One says she's lying. Notice how she only talks about herself and her injuries, not her mother. Yeah. And then here, so she's trying to show her scratches about the fight with her mom, about the injury she got. Oh, by the way, this is the clip that I narrated a while ago, one by Dr. Grand. So here at the comment, she's not sorry. She's just trying to make everyone feel bad. Yeah. Like, then here, girl, does she have no remorse? Girl, you killed your mom. She's gone forever. It's like, I don't want to call it narcissistic, but you know what? You get jail time. You're supposed to at least have some remorse for what happened. I mean, some people went as far as, hey, stop saying that. Go to your mom. Oh, wait, you killed your mom. So there's no one you can turn to now. Like here, another comment. She's acting like her mom started the attack. Her mom didn't hurt her. Isabella stabbed her mom literally at least 17 times. Her mom was defending herself. She was never sorry for her mom. You can tell she regrets nothing. So most of the comments that are posted here are against the simps.
Against the simps.
Yeah,
Are there people defending her?
yeah, they're mostly on Twitter. Some are saying that, yeah, she's sweet but psycho. It's like there are the people who are simping for her, they forget that they forget about the crime simply because they saw her and that she's pretty and she's cute, she's unassuming. That doesn't that doesn't change the crime. So here there's a God forgive me, but I don't feel bad for her. I hope she stays there forever. This is insane and sad. Because clearly she was pleading for her to be welcomed back into society. So at least she did not go as far as, can he please be released? It's the report that made that. Yeah, I want to get out of this facility now. And then she mentioned about that assault on her. And then she's also claiming that it that same mental health employee also assaulted another worker. Mm. And I'm like, it's really hard to take the word of a patient, of a mental patient. I'm not saying that she's lying or something, but You know what? The fact that she got confined there instead of getting a jail term, of course, you end up suspecting her words as well. So here, another comment. She killed her mom and she's talking about the injury she sustained in the process of killing her mother. Is she expecting sympathy? There's really no remorse. And it's really sad because on my end, I may have some problems. I may have had conflicts with my own mother, but it did not reach a point that I would do that to her because not many people have disciplinary mothers. Not many people have been in a household where you're told what's wrong and what's right, and you cannot always use your feelings or your mental health as an excuse to not get a jail term, which is why, sure, there would be mental health awareness that would be shared here on YouTube, and it was also shared by some of the people who are sympathizing for her. By the way, let me show the channel where it was shared. So it was from Anonymous Help. So here, uh, thank you for all comments, negative and positive. I appreciate your time, and my main goal is to help raise mental health awareness. I hope that Isabella's story made impact on your life and understanding on this sensitive matter. Then they used the hashtag and the stigma. Um, just to comment on this, I don't think her case is the best case to use when trying to promote mental health awareness.
And it's not even like putting awareness out there. It should be more like acceptance. And this story does not even remotely come close to having people accept mental health. If anything, it'll just make people think that that criminals will just use it to get out of jail. That's what it comes off like. And these are usually by people that don't have any mental issues at all. They're the ones that are like putting out this awareness or stuff. There's
That's
ways
why
of going. There's ways of going about it. You could do more research on the subject itself instead of just focusing on the particular stories and like, oh, hey, here's awareness. It's like, no, there's a knowledge you have to take, and then there's actions you need to take. And just putting a story up that's like here on your YouTube page, it's more performative than anything else.
yeah, it's just why I end up hating some armchair psychologists here on YouTube. Like, yeah, you're allowed to give your opinion. You're allowed to express how you feel about certain issues, but to make it sound like you're diagnosing someone based on what you saw on TV and not because you have face to face interaction with that person, yeah, it really sounds shady. It's like, and I agree with what you said that this is more about acceptance and less about awareness because awareness, we will always have that. I have a friend who I will not mention who was diagnosed bipolar, and she did not resort to criminal activities to find a way to, people try to cope with their mental health disorders with different things, but it did not lead to any criminal activity. She admitted that of course, she was diagnosed and then she was given these medication. She was given medication, and um, the only side effect perhaps is drowsiness or being happy without any reason. It's like, um, and she told me, I don't like taking some of these medication because I don't know how to explain why I am happy, and I don't think many people will believe me if I say that I am happy because I took some antidepressants. Is that supposed to be the effect? Oh, hello?
Hmm. I'm trying to think of the question or the
Yeah,
answer.
okay. Yeah, because
You can't think of an answer.
yeah, it's okay. Because there are people who don't take the medication anymore, not because they don't need it, but because they don't like the side effects that come with it. And I only know a few facilities here close to where I live. Actually, yeah, very few. I can't say it's just one when there are two or more that pay attention to mental health. It just so happened that what I really hate about some people using mental health to do these things. I know I've been watching too much YouTube lately, and it's a lot easier for them to claim or to use mental health as an excuse rather than say sorry. It's like you can say sorry, you explain what are you sorry for, and then maybe the mental health issues will come as an afterthought. At least that's how I view it. And I'm just happy that some people came over to our TED Talk. I can say it's a TED Talk, but it's more of I only became aware of these psychological issues by watching Deadly Women because a lot of these folks are really using it as an alibi or an excuse or some other thing. It's just that even they got diagnosed for this disorder and that mental health issue, they still got jail time for it because most of the time it's in the discernment. It's like, are you aware that what you did was wrong? It's also the same thing that was used as example in some lectures that I've had or lectures I've attended before, like notes. Like there's this example here about discernment because if someone is pleading not guilty due for reason of insanity, there should be a criteria. For example, here there's a case, GR number 132319, decided year 2000. So that I just mentioned the case number so that I don't have to read the names or read any names anymore. I would just read the definition. So, in the Philippines, the courts have established a more stringent criterion for insanity to be exempting, as it is required that there must be a complete deprivation of intelligence in committing the act. That is, the accused is deprived of reason and without the last or the least discernment because there is a complete absence of the power to discern. Mere abnormality of the mental faculties will not exclude imputability. The issue of insanity is a question of fact, for insanity is a condition of the mind, not susceptible of the usual means of proof, as no man can know what is going on in the mind of another. The state or condition of a person's mind can only be measured and judged by the behavior. So, fast forward to the last part here, the decision. A testimony or proof of the accused's insanity must relate to the time preceding or continuous with the commission of the offense with which he is charged. End quote. So, in other words, the criteria that other courts are using is that is this mental health only brought up by the time that the accused is placed on trial? Because I've been checking on the notes, no mention about previous medication or previous confinement in a mental health facility. Um, there was mention of how conflicted the relationship between mother and daughter. So that conflict was confirmed further by that clip that I shared a while ago, because it sounds like she talked more about her injury. She talked more about the inconvenience that she received from the mental health facility, from the state hospital. Whether it's true or not, we cannot know. But if that is the reason why she wanted to get out of that hospital, and not because she's remorse for anything that she had done, well, it's easy to say that she has remorse. She mentioned that in the video, but that part about remorse ends up sounding more than like an afterthought, because she talked less about it and more about the inconvenience that she received from this. So I have to analyze the data or the statements for what they are, because remorse is not always, we have different ways of coping or expressing remorse for sure, but if you end up talking more about yourself and less about what happened or how guilty you feel or how bad you feel, because the moment she pled not guilty by reason of insanity, she's trying to find a way out by that time. Seriously. And with that, yeah, go ahead.
The fear of jail, I was going to say.
Fear of jail. So, any final thoughts before we wrap up this episode?
Um, I mean, we talked before about how criminals use mental illness as a way of trying to escape jail time.
Mm-mm.
That's something that would have to be proven, and a lot of times, and unfortunately, a lot of times it doesn't really go through as much as people think it does. But in this situation, it did. But and even in the aftermath of it, with like that news clip that was put out there, I mean, it didn't really seem to come off that way. But again, it's Colorado. Colorado's not exactly a state that you can really point to and say, oh, they really have the best logic or the best discerning of like how to judge people. So, I mean, that's like South Park territory right there.
You
Yeah, that's where it
not
was
so
supposed to.
familiar, not so familiar with South Park. Not
Yeah.
always.
But you're going to have to take into account that and the fact that I think it's a pretty conservative area anyway. So they probably would have been a little bit harsher with her, but then they would have just been more sympathetic to her. It's like, oh, she was insane that she killed her mom, but I don't know that many people that would kill or switch stab somebody 100 times. I mean,
Mm,
what was it? I was just watching a wrestling documentary about a wrestler that had like, he had like a mental illness going on, but it was also
mhm,
coupled with steroids and the fact that there was like so much emotional pain that was going on, and he ended up killing two people anyway. But I mean, there's people that have mental illness, but they don't necessarily go out and kill anybody. Um, So I mean, it's hard for people to be sympathetic towards that when you kill somebody. It's like murder is considered to be like is the one crime that people just cannot forgive, unless of course it is in self defense and it's legitimate. Like if you had to kill someone to protect yourself, that's the only reason that people would be sympathetic to her. If you were getting attacked or your life was in danger, that's it. But if it was anything else, and it doesn't seem to be in her case, then they're just going to look at her. It's like, I don't care that she has all this stuff happening with her. She killed her mother 100 times with a knife. So you can't celebrate people like that, because then that's just going to influence some people, especially on TikTok, to to justify that, because it's like, oh, my hero did that. That's one of the reasons why, that's why people want to talk about accountability and stuff, because it's a sense of message, like you can't condone this type of behavior. That's why we were talking about was it Fire Festival last night?
Yeah.
When the models were posting stuff about the festival and they didn't put out information like that, I mean, they had to pay a fine. It's just to show to people, like, you got to do your due diligence. That just sends a message. That's how you stop this. That's how, not stop it, but it's how you slowly get people to understand, oh, I can go to jail for this if I'm not careful.
Mm.
So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your 2 cents. They're very valuable. And as for me, well, knowing that maybe she avoided jail time 7 years ago, but the internet never forgets. And now that she has spoken herself and end up getting hated more for what she did, it's like, if you're still simping for her, that's no longer on us. But hopefully, you would realize one day that soon you would be needing better role models. Maybe it's okay to admire her for her face, for looking sweet and unassuming, but remember that she still went psycho on her mom. And that's the part you never emulate. Maybe someday there would be a biopic about her by Netflix, because Netflix realized they end up earning a lot of money and becoming perhaps the biggest threat to investigation discovery when it comes to dishing out these crime stories, crime documentary series. Um, Although with her, I just see just one biopic instead of a series of episodes, because she already had her time in the spotlight undeservedly. And we are only talking about her because sometimes we just need to ask ourselves, are we looking up to the right people? Are we providing the right kind of awareness? And I have to agree with Joe. Before I uh, end this episode, I have to express how I agree with Joe about this is more about acceptance and less about awareness. We will always be aware about these because there will always be people using mental health as a get out of jail card. And it happened literally in the case of Isabella Guzman. Hopefully, it will not happen again. I doubt that will happen, especially now that I'm also reading more and more about my notes regarding criminal law and criminal procedure. Maybe I live in a different country. I may be uh, studying a criminal procedure that's different from yours, but the similarities will always be there as long as there will be related literature that can explain everything. Because remember, people, whenever you research, make sure that um, you use separate references for the sake of coming up with the conclusion, and at the end, make sure that at the end of the research, it agrees or disagrees with the initial thought that you had placed at the abstract of your research. So there. Thank you very much, Joe, for accompanying us to another interesting episode here at Untold Legends, Season 2, Episode 7, featuring Isabella Guzman. And we are talking about mental health again on the next episode. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this topic. We would be talking about the YouTuber that used mental health for views, like mental health posts on herself. Like she's claiming to have mental health issues so that people will be watching her on YouTube. Um, the name is Glitter Forever 17, and she will be our topic on the next episode of Untold Legends Season 2. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.